Coming up on Crime Files.
He cut off their legs, cut off their heads, distributed their body parts so they'd never be found.
He is one of the most notorious serial killers in the nation.
I never could have imagined that he would be the serial killer he is today.
17 gruesome murders.
It appeared that the body was starting to decay.
And a detailed admission of the grisly crimes.
We found trophies connecting him to different victims.
So how did this confessed killer's murder spree stay hidden for so long?
He's a regular guy, which makes him even scarier, because you would never see him coming.
He's evil, and he deserves to pay.
Joel Rifkin is a killer, but he's a killer that you'd never suspect.
Crime Files starts now.
Little did police realize that when they chased Joel Rifkin, they'd wind up charging the East Meadow man with the murder of a prostitute.
Authorities claim Rifkin killed 17 women.
Police and the FBI have been unraveling his trail of sex and murder.
If the allegations against him are true, 34-year-old Joel Rifkin would probably be the most prolific serial killer in New York State history.
Pursuit of a vehicle, just past Hempstead Turnpike.
It was a sweltering June night along Long Island's South Shore. New York State Trooper Sean Ruane and his partner were out patrolling the Southern State Parkway.
We came across a pickup truck heading eastbound that had no license plates, and we went to stop the vehicle right about the Wantagh Parkway. It was going to be a traffic stop. That's all it was going to be.
Failure to comply. The tan Mazda pickup.
We've got someone that's apparently starting to run, and as we drove, the speeds got faster and faster.
The pursuit stretched for more than 20 miles and only ended when the driver was forced to make a choice.
There was a major intersection. You could tell he was debating which way to go. He decided to make a left turn. He pulled up onto the shoulder and struck a light pole right there on the corner of Washington Avenue. We ran up to the car, and I opened the door, and he was just sitting there with his hands up.
Inside the truck was 34-year-old landscaper Joel David Rifkin.
To tell you the truth, I was expecting he had to be drunk. You know, he'd get some tickets, we'd tow his car, he'd be on his way. He finally asked me, he's like, "Why was I being stopped?" And I said, "Oh, you got no license plates on your car."
That's when the troopers noticed a sickening smell.
It was very strong odor. There was no avoiding it. You never forget it once you smelled that. We went to the bed area of the truck, and we see this blue tarp tied at both ends and in the middle. It just looked like someone rolled up in a blanket.
Inside the tarp, the decaying body of 22-year-old Tiffany Bresciani.
During the arrest of Rifkin, a strong odor came from the back of the vehicle. The troopers investigated and discovered the body of the white female wrapped in a tarp.
Were you horrified?
It wasn't the most pleasant sight.
It's very frightening. It's hard to believe that something like this can go on in your neighborhood.
As investigators scoured Rifkin's truck, troopers took him in for questioning.
They told me to bring him upstairs to the interview room, and they went in to talk to him.
Officials say Rifkin told them in the early morning hours of June 24th, he picked up Bresciani, a sex worker in Lower Manhattan, had sex with her in his car, and then strangled her.
They asked him again, "So what happened?" He said, "I don't know, I was with the girl, and then next thing you know, she was dead."
Rifkin reportedly divulging that Bresciani's decomposing body had been in the truck for days. And he even lent his unsuspecting mother the vehicle to run errands. She was riding around with the corpse inside.
He had no place to keep it other than his garage. It was hot and the body started to decompose badly, so he needed to get it out of there. He was living with his mom at the time. You know, it's hard to explain to your mom why there's a dead woman in the garage.
What Rifkin revealed to investigators next shocked the seasoned detectives.
The next question is, did this ever happen before? And his response was, well, what if it did? They asked him, like, well, what are we talking about? How many, you know? And Rifkin responded, well, if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. You better get a map.
Detectives say Rifkin described his 17 murders and listed the names of the victims he could remember.
It was almost an investigation in reverse, because you had the bad guy, now you had to go and find the crimes.
And he drew detailed maps of where to find the bodies.
He remembered them all vividly. He had tremendous detail for all of them.
Robert Mladinich, a retired NYPD detective who coincidentally met Rifkin in college, says the serial killer revealed intricate details about many of the murders, including his first kill back in 1989.
He picked up a woman in New York City, took her to East Meadow.
According to Rifkin's confession, he brought this woman, who he referred to as Susie, back to his childhood home while his mother was away on vacation.
She wanted to sleep, he wanted to have sex, she wanted more drugs, and she was complaining, and he just snapped.
Mladinich says Rifkin beat her with an artillery shell he bought at a military flea market.
And he just kept beating her over the head with the mortar shell until she died.
Rifkin told Mladinich he used an X-Acto knife to dismember the body, the same way he learned in a college biology class.
Very calmly took her down in the basement where he used to play with his sister and dissected her, chopped other body parts off and spread them out in different places.
Investigators say he removed her teeth and fingertips and placed the head in a paint can.
His confession in the initial interview was very key to the crime. It led us to everything.
Her head and legs were dumped in a wooded area in Hopewell, New Jersey. Her arms and torso were tossed into the East River.
He was very particular about what he did with them. He was able to recollect everything, like he was reliving it.
2 golfers discovered the remains in New Jersey. Authorities were only able to ID the decomposed body through DNA 24 years later. The woman Rifkin called Susie was actually Heidi Balch.
He didn't kill again for about 1.5 years.
Then the list of victims started to grow. One of them, 22-year-old Mary Ellen DeLuca.
She was a fun-loving girl, and it's a shame.
Rifkin was also running a landscaping business at the time. Officials say he kept corpses, including Mary Ellen's, at rented job sites until he could get rid of them.
Was he doing anything strange back there near the trailer?
No, he just pull it in, take it out, that's it. He never worked back there, he just took a trailer and left.
DeLuca's decomposing body was eventually found in Cornwall, New York, by a man searching for firewood.
I would say, did you ever think that, you know, these women had families, or they had loved ones, or they had people that would be grieving and heartbroken over them? And he would say no.
Mladinich says Rifkin preyed on women he believed were easy targets and wouldn't be reported missing.
State police still believe that all of Rifkin's victims were prostitutes, short white or Hispanic women that he picked up in New York City, had sex with, and then either strangled or suffocated.
The majority of them were killed where he was looking in their eyes, where he was on top of them with his knee in their chest, holding them down and choking the life out of them. He said, you know, I only sought out the most emaciated women because I knew some of them would fight back.
And in November of 1992, when Rifkin picked up Brooklyn native Jenny Soto, her family says that's exactly what happened.
My sister wore false nails. Her nails, along with the false nails, was ripped apart. That's how bad she fought.
Rifkin said he strangled the 23-year-old and dumped her body into the Harlem River.
Since Jenny's death, the family has been consumed by grief.
If I could tell something to my daughter, I would have told her that I love her. Now I don't have to wonder no more sleepless night about who did it, you know, I know it's him.
Rifkin's final kill was on June 24th, 1993. Tiffany Bresciani, an aspiring Broadway actress from Louisiana, who reportedly came to New York to follow her dreams.
She was a writer. She loved to write, and she loved people, and I taught her to, you know, love people before herself. She was a very self-sacrificing person.
Tiffany's dreams never came to fruition. Instead, she was strangled in Rifkin's car and wrapped in that blue tarp.
It was perverse. It was deviant. It was sadistic. There was no doubt about it. He had the elements of a brutal killer. Nobody had any idea. Had he not made that fatal mistake of driving on the Southern State that night without a license plate, this could have continued for years.
Crime Files continues now with Joel Rifkin, an American serial killer.
Police say this may be the largest case of serial murder since the Arthur Shawcross prostitute killings in Rochester in the late 80s.
On June 28, 1993, Joel Rifkin was arrested after leading New York State troopers on a chase through Long Island's Nassau County.
The troopers investigated and discovered the body of the white female wrapped in a tarp.
Authorities made a grisly discovery inside of his truck, the body of 22-year-old sex worker Tiffany Bresciani.
Did you do it?
What do you have to say? What do you have to say, Joel? 17 victims?
As police questioned Rifkin on the night of his arrest, they say he detailed all 17 murders and depicted where he dumped the bodies and what they were wearing.
The dead were dates to Joel Rifkin. His mind never drew the connection between what was real, what was fantasy, what was life, what was death.
It wasn't this big boogeyman that you might conjure up in your imagination. He was just a regular guy, which makes him even scarier.
To outsiders, Joel Rifkin had a seemingly loving childhood. He was adopted at 3 weeks old on Valentine's Day in 1959.
He was adopted by a really seemingly nice family. I got to know the mother very well.
Rifkin grew up in the quiet suburb of East Meadow, New York, with his sister Jan and his parents, Bernard and Jean.
He absolutely adored his mother.
Getting his father's approval wouldn't be as easy.
His father apparently loved math and loved playing with numbers. Joel, he had been dyslexic. He always felt like sort of like a failure in his father's eyes because he wasn't good at school. He was incessantly bullied his whole childhood.
They locked him in lockers and they badgered him and what have you.
Some of the bullying that he told me in graphic detail was absolutely cruel, where children today, if they were to engage in this type of behavior, would be arrested. He would try to find excuses to stay in school as long as he could so all the other kids would go home, and then he would take this circuitous route home where nobody would see him. But he learned to share passions with his mother, those main passions being photography.
Rifkin had what he thought was a moment of acceptance in high school when he was asked by the yearbook committee to take photos.
He finally felt like he was part of a team, he was part of a group, and he was being respected and they were admiring his work. When the yearbook was finished, he wasn't invited to the completion party. He was completely let out. When he described that to me, he actually got kind of emotional.
As Rifkin grew older, those who knew him say so did his desire for dark and violent films.
Joel told me that in 1974, which he would have only been 15 years old, there was an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Frenzy. And in that movie, there was a very successful businessman, handsome, young, rich, but he had this proclivity for killing people, killing prostitutes. And in the movie, there was one particular scene where somebody got garroted with a tie. That became his sexual image that he used to enhance all of his experiences with either prostitutes or even women that he, was with on a private, personal level.
In 1977, Rifkin enrolled at SUNY Brockport. Mladenich said he was harboring a secret fetish for sex workers at the time.
He was patronizing prostitutes in Brockport. Anytime he got money from his parents, he was spending it on prostitutes. When he was seeing these prostitutes, which he said numbered probably over 500 over the years, every one of them he fantasized about killing. Even now, with all I know and all the graphic detail he's told me, all the horrific things I've heard from his own mouth, said emotionlessly, in hindsight, I still find it kind of hard to believe that he did what he did. And I always imagined that Joel was off shooting for National Geographic or some really upscale magazine, because I thought he was that talented and he was that unique in his thinking and he was that creative. And boy, was I wrong.
Rifkin eventually dropped out of college, but when his father was diagnosed with cancer in 1986, he wanted to fulfill his dad's dying wish.
The father was still very disappointed in him, and he said, if you go back to school and you get 2 A's, then I will pay for you to go back to school full time. He got an A in both classes, and he went to proudly report to his father in the hospital room.
But Rifkin never got to have that moment.
According to Joel, the father took an overdose of barbiturates in the hospital and died. He felt like his father was so sure his son was going to disappoint him once again that he took himself out, and he blamed himself for that.
I think all of those forces came together. This strange compulsion was uncontrollable once his father had died. That was the rock. That was the rock. It held him in check. It all hit the fan once his father died, and he had the liberty and the power to say to his mother, I'm going out. It was a perfect storm.
Rifkin confessed to murdering 17 women within a 5-year period. Investigators say he also admitted to keeping mementos from his kills.
He made a list of everything he had taken from each of the victims and when it occurred, and he just sat down and categorized everything.
Police executed a search warrant for the East Meadow home he shared with his mother and sister.
It was a normal middle-class home. Nothing remarkable about it.
But inside, investigators say they found something far more sinister.
Once you went in his room, you just walked into a different world there.
His room looked like it got hit by a bomb.
We found trophies connecting him to different victims. We found books on serial killers.
I mean, this is a guy that you'd look at and nobody would ever think, forget about killing women, that he'd ever even commit a violent crime. You never know what's going on in someone else's house.
Crime Files continues now with Joel Rifkin, an American serial killer.
It's a case that I'm sure is going to shock you. Unparalleled evil, depravity, and extraordinary violence that was committed by Joel Rifkin. And you will see it firsthand, the work of a serial killer.
Joel Rifkin admitted to killing 17 women in New York. In 1994, he was put on trial for the murder of Tiffany Bresciani.
He knew when he killed Tiffany Bresciani that he was a serial killer.
Rifkin had a very laid-back attitude in court. I don't know if he was resting or sleeping. That was really damning evidence against him. When those witnesses were there, he'd tend to put his head down. As prolific and successful a serial killer as Rifkin was, garnered a ton of attention, nationally and internationally. There was no doubt he had done it, and done 17 of them at a minimum. The question is, he had raised a psychiatric defense.
Mr. Rifkin impressed me as a paranoid schizophrenic.
John Lawrence, Rifkin's defense attorney, called a clinical psychologist to the stand, hoping the jury would believe he acted out because he was mentally unfit.
These gruesome acts of savage violence were acted out by an individual who was not responsible because of a major mental disease or defect.
I had tried to show that this guy was not the monster that people thought. I believed that he had legitimate issues. The jury didn't see it that way, but I did.
For the crime of murder in the second degree, you, Joel Rifkin, are hereby sentenced to an indeterminate term of imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years and a maximum of your natural lifetime.
After all what he did to my daughter didn't, she didn't deserve to die like that.
It wasn't just us, he hurt us. But look at all these other people that he hurt.
She was a good girl. She was a good person. She was very caring, very loving, very giving. She was a good mother. She was a good wife. He's evil, and he deserves to pay.
The only way I would describe Joel Rifkin is evil. The crime itself and the way he had committed them and got away with it, he was a horror show.
He's in an isolated cell, pretty much all day. He knows he belongs in prison. He doesn't think he should be let out and doesn't want to be let out.